Hey everyone, and welcome to This Explainer. I am so thrilled you're here today because, well, we're tackling a topic that affects absolutely all of us. But honestly, it often feels like it's written in a completely different language. Today, we're focusing on exactly how insurance vocabulary works. Look, if you've ever felt completely overwhelmed staring down a massive stack of policy paperwork, you are absolutely not alone. It's like a giant puzzle. But my goal today is to transform all that intimidating financial jargon into a totally logical, highly organized toolkit for you. By the end of our time together, you're going to be able to read your policies with absolute clarity.
Okay, let's dive into this by starting right at the very beginning. Before we can master all that complex vocabulary, we really need to answer a foundational question. What exactly is insurance? I mean, aside from being a pretty great cure for insomnia, right? It's a word we hear literally every single day, but how do we actually define it in practical terms?
Well, at its core, it's defined as a way to protect oneself or an organization from financial loss. Fundamentally, everything we're going to look at today boils down to one simple, absolutely crucial concept, and that is risk management. Every single policy, every complicated term you run into, it's really just a specific mechanism designed to manage risk and ultimately prevent financial devastation.
Now, to avoid any cognitive overload, because there are a ton of terms out there, we're organizing this massive vocabulary into 5 distinct safety nets for different parts of your life. Here's our agenda. First, the language of risk. Second, protecting your property. Third, safeguarding health and income. Fourth, covering your liabilities. And finally, planning for the end. Structuring it this way is going to make the jargon so much easier to digest. Let's get to it.
Section 1. The language of risk.
So before we talk about specific policies, we have to establish the baseline players, like who is actually giving you this protection. The core term you need to know right off the bat is insurer. An insurer is simply the entity providing the coverage. But what's interesting here is that this word is kind of an umbrella term. Whether you're dealing directly with a massive corporate insurance company or you're going through a local independent insurance broker, both of these entities are officially referred to in your paperwork as the insurer.
Moving on to Section 2, protecting your property.
Now that we know who is providing the coverage, let's focus on the physical sphere, starting with the vehicles we drive. Depending on where you live or who your insurer is, you're going to see different jargon that all means the exact same thing. You might see car insurance, motor insurance, or vehicle insurance. The key takeaway here is just not to get confused by the variations. They are total synonyms, though it is worth noting that motor insurance is the American English variant you're often going to encounter. And, we see a very similar pattern when it comes to where we live. You'll frequently see home insurance and property insurance used interchangeably across your documents. Regardless of which term your insurer prefers to use, these policies generally step in to cover the heavy financial costs related to fire, theft, and damage incurred by weather.
But the vocabulary gets a lot more specific depending on your actual environment and living situation. We have boiler insurance, earthquake insurance, and flood insurance. If you lease, there's landlord and renter's insurance. And importantly, there's windstorm insurance, which specifically covers the devastating damage caused by hurricanes and tornadoes. Each term represents a highly specialized safety net, and knowing the difference really matters, because standard home insurance often won't cover things like floods or earthquakes.
And this brilliantly illustrates how insurance vocabulary can connect your physical property to your personal health. For those who own their property, there's another critical layer of terminology, mortgage protection. This is designed to actually pay off your mortgage if you pass away. Plus, some of these policies will even cover your ongoing mortgage payments if you suddenly become disabled or sick. It essentially protects your home ownership in the absolute worst-case scenarios. Before we leave the physical sphere altogether, we absolutely can't forget our non-human dependents. Pet insurance is a highly popular policy purchased by pet owners everywhere. The vocabulary here is straightforward but vital. It exists simply to offset the overall and honestly, often surprisingly high cost of your animal's medical bills. It protects your wallet when your dog inevitably decides to eat a sock.
Section 3, safeguarding health and income.
So, we're transitioning away from our physical things now and shifting focus to our bodies and our livelihoods. First up, let's look at medical synonyms. Much like the vehicle coverage we talked about earlier, the vocabulary here can really vary, but it all points to the exact same protection. You're going to see medical insurance, health care, or a health plan. You'll also see dental insurance, and it's important to note that while dental can be its own completely separate policy, it's sometimes covered directly under a broader healthcare plan.
But protecting your body goes hand in hand with protecting your ability to earn a living, and that introduces the term income protection. This functions as a vital safety net for your everyday livelihood. It literally pays a part of your lost income if you're completely unable to work because of a disability, an illness, or an injury.
Let's move to and see how this builds. Disability insurance, or long-term disability insurance, is actually just a more specific branch, a subtype, of that overarching income protection we just talked about. This is a really great example of how insurance vocabulary funnels down from a big, broad category into a highly specific, targeted safety net.
Section 4. Covering your liabilities.
Now, this section demystifies the legal side of insurance vocabulary, which, let's be honest, is often the most intimidating part. The absolutely crucial point here is understanding what liability actually means. Liability insurance is protection against claims resulting from injuries and damage to other people or their property. Let me frame it this way. Earlier, we talked about protecting your own property, right? Well, liability insurance is the protection you need for when your own actions accidentally impact the physical or financial well-being of someone else.
There are two major terms you need to contrast side by side in this category. First is public liability. This covers the costs of claims made by members of the public for general incidents that occur in connection with business activities. Contrasted with that is professional liability. This is highly specific insurance that protects professionals, think accountants, lawyers, physicians, against negligence and other claims that are initiated specifically by their clients. If you're a freelancer, a contractor, or you run your own practice, knowing the difference between these two terms is absolutely vital to your career.
Section 5. Planning for the end.
This brings us to the final, most long-term category of our vocabulary arc. The big umbrella term here is life insurance. According to the policies, this specific vocabulary signifies coverage that provides crucial income to an insured person's family upon their death. These funds are specifically designed to be used to handle end-of-life burdens, burial, funeral costs, and other final expenses, so the family isn't left financially stranded during what is already an emotionally devastating time.
Wow, we have covered an incredible amount of ground today, haven't we? We've turned a mountain of jargon into a structured, logical toolkit. But I want to leave you with this final provocative question. Do you speak the language of your own policies? Understanding these terms in theory is wonderful. It really is. But the true value comes from application. I highly encourage you to pull out your own paperwork, look past all that intimidating legalese, and apply your newly organized vocabulary. Thank you so much for joining me in this explainer, and I can't wait to explore more fascinating topics with you next time.